the protagonist of this morning finds himself dragged into hell by an evil demon lord. And of all the things he could worry about, what troubled him the most was the complete lack of understanding from the demon lord when it came to the concept of consent. See, just before the day when Honda and Sung could graduate from high school, he was living his day walking like any ordinary human, when suddenly, he stumbled, and somehow his soul separated from his body, and he found himself sinking deeper and deeper. The next thing he knows, he is in hell, terrified when his eyes meet fierce and cruel monsters locked in brutal combat with each other. The horrible part is that the losers end up being devoured. Somehow, Dae-sung keeps hidden and survives, without eating for 10 consecutive days. Wait, is that even possible? The strange thing about this place was the absence of any cycle, of day or night. When our hero finally reached his limit, his only option to survive was to consume the rotten and raw flesh left behind by the monsters. As repugnant as it was his only way to stay alive. Over time, he gradually adapted to the hostile environment. He began to fight back against the monsters that saw him as prey, using only pebbles from the ground, somehow managing to fend them off. With no other choice, he was forced to fight, relying on anything he could find, and turning it into an improvised weapon. Tears fell from his eyes as he missed his mother, and in that moment of pain, he vowed not to succumb to despair. As the days blurred together, the time came when he decided to say goodbye to his humanity. He started from the bottom, struggling to rise. The flesh that once disgusted him now became a rare luxury, something he learned to appreciate to survive. One day, while eating, a panel unexpectedly appeared before him. It was revealed that he had leveled up to level 3. At that moment, everything felt like a game. 7 years passed quickly, and he reached level 24. With that level of strength, he could easily defeat the creatures that once seemed like fierce monsters. After enduring 24 years, he managed to forge a sword from a stone collected from a dragon knight. However, time did not stop. It flowed like a gentle breeze. In his 51st year, Dae-sung accomplished the formidable feat of killing an ancient dragon by his 79th year. He finally found the way to the demon lord, the very creature that had dragged him into this hellish existence. And more importantly, without consent, he effortlessly cuts down the insects guarding the demon lord's lair. And even the doorkeeper stands no chance against the aged yet surprisingly young protagonist. He threatens the guard, demanding that he politely open the gate or else his remains will be fed to the monsters of this so-called hell. However, the guardian is far from cooperative and offers some resistance. Taking the situation as a personal affront to the honor of the demon lord, he loses control while saying unpleasant things. Suddenly, he feels something pierce him. When he looks down, he discovers a huge hole in his chest. Dae-sung impassively comments that this noisy guardian is irritating him. Meanwhile, the floating skeleton Fireball, which is probably his pet, asks if he is not worried that the demon lord will retaliate for killing his guard, and if he really intends to take hell. However, he dismisses the Fireball's concerns, stating that he has no interest in something like becoming a stupid ruler. He explains that 80 years have passed since he was dragged to this place, and every monster he faced was remarkable, each with fascinating stories and reasons for their presence in hell. That is why he wants to confront the demon lord and ask why he brought him here. The Fireball thinks his method of inquiry is somewhat foolish. He suggests that there might be a more polite way to approach the situation, proposing that he should kneel and beg for forgiveness. But he remains resolute, insisting that he will resort to violence in response to the suffering he endured, especially since he was brought here without any notion of consent. With that, he grabs his sword and advances towards the demon lord, only to suddenly find himself in a hospital. He panics, wondering if all of this is a dream, especially since he hasn't dreamed of the land in a long time. Nearby, he sees children playing, and realizes that by his own physique, he seems quite weak, unable to move his body. He convinces himself that it must be a lucid dream. At that moment, his mother opens the door, trembling at the sight of her son awake. After 30 long years, she bursts into tears and hugs him tightly. But Dae-sung feels a wave of disdain for this dream, finding it incredibly childish. To his surprise, he actually defeated the demon lord and became the absolute ruler of this hell. When his Fireball companion asks what he plans to do next, a sudden message appears asking if he wishes to return to the land. For all those 80 years, all he wanted was to escape this place. Without losing a moment, he quickly accepts the offer, and suddenly, he finds himself in the hospital, having awakened from a comatose state after 30 long years. The doctor checks his eye reflexes and gestures positively to his mother, assuring her that rehabilitation treatment will get her son back in shape in no time. For his mother, this is a blessing, but for Dae-sung, It feels like a curse, the idea of returning to life after wasting 30 years in bed, now in such a fragile state, is completely unacceptable to him. He becomes increasingly agitated, questioning if his entire journey to hell was nothing more than a dream. The people around him become frightened when he starts to act like a psychotic patient. Overwhelmed by his frustration and confusion, he threatens the doctor not to come near him, but when the doctor approaches, our hero bites him like a wild animal, demanding to know what happened to his body. He questions if he was paralyzed or poisoned, desperately, hoping this is just a nightmare. In his madness, he falls from the bed, which only increases his mother's concern. He reflects on the 80 years of continuous struggle he faced in hell, feeling as if it had all been in vain. Even in his darkest moments there, he never lost hope of escaping, and now he longs to return. The team members are immediately called, holding both of Dae-sung's arms, to force him back to bed. When he looks out the window, he sees a huge wormhole opening in the sky, confused and desperate. He questions his fate, wondering if his life in hell was just a dream he had while in a coma. When he refuses to calm down, the anesthetist uses an injection to put him to sleep. Then, as his senses return, he finds himself watching a news channel on TV, which confirms his suspicions. The vision he had seen was indeed a gate, and a hunting team was sent to eliminate the monsters. The team leader sends reports to a man who came to see him. The man looks shocked and radiant upon finding him, awake, still feeling confused. Dae-sung asks who he is, only to realize in a flash of recognition that this is your friend, Chunho. Chunho informs that he has been in this state for 10 years. He explains that a decade ago, while returning home, he fell unconscious and fainted, and since that moment, he has been lying in this hospital bed upon hearing 10 years of the Zoom. He feels a mix of confusion and relief. He thought that 30 years had passed. What irritates him the most, however, is the realization that he spent 80 years in hell. He shares that his mother suffered greatly, working 3 jobs to cover his hospital expenses. He encourages him to take back control of his life, revealing that he also has a job opportunity ready for him. While our Demon King is taken outside by his mother in search of some fresh air, he feels a strong sense of responsibility and a deep hatred for his body. He cannot move on his own. Suddenly, 2 men appear, demanding the money that his mother borrowed. She apologizes and begs for just 1 more month, but the brutes remain unmoved. In a moment of aggression, one of the brutes pushes her, threatening her with violence. Tears stream down her face as she pleads for them to stop humiliating her in front of her son, her voice trembling with despair. However, the thug pays no attention to her pleas. He rolls up his sleeves and begins to hit the poor woman. Witnessing his mother's suffering ignites an intense fury within Dae-sung. Then he begins to call them insects and hurls insults at them. When one of the thugs grabs him by the sleeve, his mother desperately urges him to apologize, begging the thugs to release her son. Remembering that he is just a child, Dae-sung refuses to give, and adopting a hardened expression, the thug, smiling, throws him to the ground with a strong shove. After that, the gangster delivers a brutal beating while he struggles to control his anger and longs for his old body. A sudden mission appears in the status window. Without hesitating for a moment, he quickly accepts, recognizing that he has little choice in this situation. The status window had been his lifeline, allowing him to endure his time in hell on his own. As soon as he acknowledges the mission, everything around him freezes, as if time itself had stopped. The mission conditions unfold within the status window. He is instructed to reach a specific point within 1 hour, with the promise of receiving a recovery elixir upon success. Driven by determination, he contemplates if regaining his old strength is possible, and spots a red marker just 10 meters away. He tries to get up, but with a smile spreading across his face, he begins to crawl towards the target. The idea of complaining about something so trivial angers him. After all, he is the one who has already conquered hell, crawling slower than an insect. The centimeters stretch into meters, and the meters seem like endless kilometers. At this pace, he begins to doubt his ability to reach the location in time. Still, he strives to remain calm, knowing that in his experience, the system never assigns impossible tasks or missions. As the seconds pass, he suddenly notices a loophole. Recalling the terms of the mission, he realizes that the only requirement is to reach the destination, regardless of how he manages to do it. Our crawling hero grows irritated, realizing that the obvious solution had been there all along. With his weak hands, he reaches for his wheelchair, moving slowly but steadily until he manages to settle into it. However, only 35 seconds remain undaunted. He grips the wheelchair and propels himself forward. Refusing to lose hope, he advances, and against all odds, reaches the location at the last second. With the mission completed, he grabs the reward and consumes it quickly. Almost instantly, a wave. Relief invades, your pain disappears, and although in a small fraction, he begins to regain a bit of his former strength. Physical With the completion of the mission, the time pause effect dissolves. The bandits look around in confusion, searching for Dae-sung, who has apparently vanished into thin air before they can begin the search. However, the police arrive. Apparently having witnessed the entire incident with no other choice, the bandits quickly flee the scene later that night. While lying in a hospital bed, the Demon Lord repeatedly tries to summon the status window, but all efforts prove futile. He has no idea how it opened. Before desperate, he tries different commands like quest and missions, but in the end, he abandons the attempt. His mind fixates on the need for new missions, hoping they will help him regain his strength before the bandits reappear. Suddenly a strange noise breaks the silence, and he finds himself floating in a place known as the Pantheon. Initially, he dismisses it as a meaningless dream, but it quickly becomes evident that this is not an illusion. He has been summoned here to fulfill some kind of task. Without hesitation, he requests another mission on a punching bag, or more precisely, a punching monster materializes before him. He does what he was instructed, and upon completing the task, he is rewarded with a memory chip. As soon as the mission ends, another one appears, this time requiring him to run 10 kilometers. The missions continue to arise one after the other, and with each task completed, he earns yet another reward for 10 consecutive days. He struggles through completing mission after mission, but manages to achieve only 55% of the total implementation. Frustration mounts as he tires of these low-level tasks, and finally demands a proper challenge. In response, the system grants him a new mission: to kill a crying demon. Suddenly, a lightning bolt strikes before him, and the crying demon materializes. Called the Demon King, he remembers how he almost died facing this opponent in the past, and feels a wave of excitement at the chance for a new fight. The thunder-covered monster lets out a deafening roar, and charges into the duel with a fierce claw attack. Dae-sung barely manages to dodge in time fully. Aware that a single blow would reduce him to dust, he leaps forward, intending to attack, but the monster easily swats him to the ground. Blood spills from his mouth as he struggles to endure the humiliation of being thrown by a crying demon corroding his pride. The battle drags on with Dae-sung, a demon lord who should be feared as a villain, forced into a frustrating game of evasion. But eventually his luck runs out, and the demon captures him, holding him firmly in its claws at that moment. Desperate, Dae-sung recalls how he crushed the monster. In their first encounter, he had almost forgotten that he could summon a sword without hesitation. He calls one to his hand and slices the demon's left claw in a swift and decisive move. Without hesitation, Dae-sung shows no mercy, quickly sending the demon back from whence it came, as if it were no more than an insect. With the mission completed, he finds himself back in the hospital room. The morning has already arrived. He opens the window, whose sound awakens. His mother dazed, she asks who is beside her, only to be shocked to see Dae-sung in front of her, his physique now resembling that of a bodybuilder. The hospital staff responsible for his rehabilitation is left speechless. According to their expectations, his recovery should have taken at least 6 months. Incomprehensible to them how Dae-sung managed to make such remarkable progress in just 15 days. His mother, still worried about her son, expresses her concern, but the doctor gently reassures her, calming her nerves by stating that there is nothing to fear. Meanwhile, Dae-sung feels the effects of his mission. Noticing a significant improvement as part of his strength returns, he stretches, looking around the room until he sees his mother talking to a nurse, tears filling his eyes, as she thanks the nurse, who in turn offers comfort, acknowledging her struggle and empathizing with her situation. Seeing this, Dae-sung realizes how difficult the last 10 years must have been for his mother, his heart tightening with emotion, and as he clenches his fists, he silently promises to protect her. Now that he has finally returned, he goes to the bathroom and shouts, "Pantheon." Instantly, his soul is drawn to the Pantheon upon arrival. He asks if the system can speed up the implementation process. The system responds affirmatively, allowing him to select the difficulty level for random missions. Recalling his status as the Lord of Demons, he boldly sets the difficulty level to Hell, the highest and most challenging level available. In response, a dark sphere materializes before him. When it shatters, the vision that emerges leaves him wide-eyed in astonishment. Before him stands nothing less than the absolute ruler of Hell, a perfect mirrored image of Dae-sung but at full strength. Dae-sung summons his sword, excitement coursing through him at the prospect of battle. Without wasting a moment, his replica charges forward, delivering a fierce downward strike. The weakened Dae-sung barely manages to block the blow, feeling the tension. The replica maintains the offensive, attacking from all angles, searching for a weakness in Dae-sung's defenses. Overwhelmed by the overwhelming force of his doppelganger, he realizes that the longer this fight drags on, the more it works against him. Suddenly, the replica finds an opening and lunges its hand toward Dae-sung, throwing him across the arena. Breathing heavily, Dae-sung murmurs that the replica seems more like a genuine article at this point. Still, with a smile forming on his lips, he seems to have a card up his sleeve. Ready to turn the tide, he activates his blood neutralization ability, becoming immune to his double's attacks, even when cut by the sword. He feels nothing, and quickly changes the course of the battle, slamming the replica's face into the ground. However, this advantage is short-lived. To his surprise, the replica is not defeated so easily. It also possesses the same ability. The battle resumes with renewed intensity, and soon Dae-sung finds himself stabbed by the sword, a clear reminder of the risks. Meanwhile, a cleaner approaches the bathroom, ready to open the door after receiving no response from inside. As she reaches for the doorknob, she is abruptly called to the third floor. Urgently back to the Pantheon, Dae-sung feels cornered. The weight of possible defeat presses down on him, and he realizes that if he loses now, all his hard work will have been in vain. Desperation fuels his thoughts as he searches for a way to turn the tide. Even if it requires a stroke of luck, he quickly accesses his inventory and pulls out a nutritional tonic, one of the rewards he received for completing missions. This potion has the remarkable ability to restore 20% of his stamina. Realizing that 5 vials would completely replenish him to 100%, he feels a spark of hope ignite within him. In the heat of battle, he decides to take the risk and downs 1 bottle, feeling the invigorating effects coursing through his body, interrupted by his false doppelganger. Our hero does not hesitate and throws his fist fearlessly. Ignoring his low health with his doppelganger being thrown away by a single punch, our hero's confidence is quickly restored without wasting time. He grabs 2 more tonics and drinks both. His doppelganger, however, does not appreciate this, and almost hits him with a violent spinning kick. Skillfully avoiding the attack, he takes a 3rd tonic. They have no chance to pause, as they exchange blows at a speed too fast for the eye to follow. Meanwhile, our protagonist manages to finish a 4th tonic. However, to his frustration, even after recovering significantly, he still cannot defeat his doppelganger, who wastes no time and locks him in a chokehold. A mischievous smile spreading across his face as his blade advances towards our demon king. As a last resort, our character executes a high IQ plan to completely change the game. The ripped abs of his double are pierced by the blade of the original, leaving him confused while his own weapon disappears into Dae-sung's inventory. With a cheeky smile, our protagonist laughs at his previously confident doppelganger. Seeing him fall to his knees, he savors the last-minute victory that his gamble secured by completing the hellish difficulty mission. A blazing blue window proclaims that the user has achieved a 100% implementation rate, and that his body is now restored to its peak. As a bonus, he even gains the ability to use the Hell system on Earth. Suddenly, his hospital clothes are torn apart. The sight of his battle-scarred body triggers a flood of memories, reminding our demon king of all the suffering that brought him to this point, giving him a sense of déjà vu. However, when he commands the system to return him to Earth, a panel appears asking if he wishes to read unread messages. Upon selecting yes, the messages congratulate him on becoming a monarch. It is explained that after the monarch departed, celestial beings took control of Hell, leaving the demons trapped. Realizing the implications, our protagonist scoffs at the very hell that stole 80 years of his life, now asking for its help. With a mischievous smile, the Hell Monarch challenges his subjects with an offensive gesture, cursing them with vengeful satisfaction. He orders the system to remove him from the Pantheon, leaving the orders of monsters in Hell stunned as they realize their fate is sealed. Back to the hospital. My friend is casually doing insane vertical push-ups with one hand, while his mother and the doctor watch in silence. Impressed, using his deduction skills at the level of Sherlock Holmes, the doctor concludes that Dae-sung has apparently awakened, but his mother still struggles to believe in her son's incredible transformation. Despite the doctor's assurance, she expresses solemnly her desire to understand how this could have happened eventually. The doctor suggests she visit the Awakened Association, which her son overhears. The scene shifts to our protagonist and his mother in a taxi as he reflects on her conversation with the doctor, wondering what his mother might be hiding from him. To increase his confusion, he looks out the window, wondering what happened on Earth while he was in a coma. When they finally return home, his mother mentions that she will be back soon and leaves. Upon entering the house, he is surprised to find a girl with cotton candy hair taking money from a drawer. He struggles to remember who this mysterious girl could be. At that moment, his mother quickly enters, breaking the awkward silence. She reveals that the girl is Randy Sue, his sister. The realization dawns on him that the girl he couldn't recognize all along. His sister, the perception arises in him that the girl he couldn't recognize all along, it is her own sister noticing her spoiled daughter taking money again. Their mother becomes visibly irritated while she ignores it and prepares to leave. Meanwhile, our older brother is still recovering from the shock of not recognizing his only sister. As she passes by him, his sister bitterly reminds him of how the last 10 years have been hell for their mother and for her. Daisy looks down somberly, regretting not being able to do anything to help as she leaves. The mother asks where she is going. Then a loud voice catches everyone's attention. Once again, the debt collectors have returned. They threaten to break down the door. If it is not opened by the count of 3, everyone falls silent, but our boy is furious, ready to take revenge. Tired of waiting outside, the man in the silver suit kicks their door. The mother begs her daughter to come back inside, but she remains fearless. The man in the silver suit turns to the thug accompanying him, asking if they should just break down the door. To his surprise, she comes out and complains that they are being annoyingly persistent, momentarily speechless. The man in the silver suit concludes that she must be the daughter. Seizing the opportunity, he storms into the house furious, while his ugly, lecherous partner looks greedily at her. Their mother, trembling deeply, apologizes, while taking money out of her purse. But a moment later, the money is in the air as the man in the silver suit, furious at the paltry amount, violently slaps her, knocking the fragile woman to the floor. Seeing his mother being mistreated, our hero, boiling with rage, sends the man in the silver suit flying with a single satisfying punch. The ugly, fat thug asks what is happening, while the once arrogant man in the silver suit cries to Daddy about being bullied. The thug can only look shocked. While our demon lord thanks them for coming directly to him after a brief provocation, the thug is grabbed by the jaw. As our guy prepares to give a well-deserved beating in the name of his mother, he punches the thug's face, not 5, not 10, but 100 times before the brute falls to the ground in pain, beaten and bloodied. The thug spots a wooden chair. In a desperate move, he grabs it by the leg and tries to attack our hero. But like a true tough guy, our guy punches the chair directly, sending the thug flying against the wall and falling next to his partner. Panicking, the man in the silver suit pulls out a dagger and mocks our unflappable boy. Our protagonist calmly grabs the guy by the wrist and twists it brutally like Play-Doh in revenge for having assaulted his mother. The man screams in agony. Grabbing his now useless and limp hand, the ugly, fat thug warns that he will not get away unscathed. Instead, wilder than the two scoundrels combined, our demon king presents one simple solution: leave no witnesses. Just as he is about to finish off the thug, he freezes upon hearing his mother scream. She begs her son to stop, and the two debt collectors, now in tears, run out of the house. They stumble back to the car, incredulous, discussing how a hospitalized boy could become so strong. After spending 10 years in a coma, worried about the consequences of failing at work, the man in the silver suit anxiously asks his partner what they should do while tending to their wounds. The ugly giant tries to change the subject, but the man in the silver suit quickly interrupts. Having just spotted Daesung's sister returning home, the mother explains that after he fainted, she had to sell the house and the store. She continues, saying that once those savings ran out, she took loans from 3 different institutions. Unlike the original borrowed amount, the interest accumulated into an unpayable, extremely high debt. Curious about this, our protagonist discovers that she had to drop out of school and work in a restaurant to help pay off the debt. With tears in her eyes, his mother reveals how his sister worked tirelessly day and night just to support him. Gritting his teeth, he laments that she should never have had to leave school. His mother then explains that despite Jisoo's efforts, she wasn't earning enough and had been going somewhere unknown for the past few months. Heartbroken by the family's suffering, our boy wishes they had let him die. But his mother gently reassures him. The ensuing heavy silence is interrupted by a phone call. Seeing that it is the debt collector, our boy tells her to pass the phone. Frustrated, he mocks them, but his pupils dilate in shock upon hearing the bad news. The scene shifts to his sister, tied up with duct tape. The brute shoves her head while he is on the phone with our protagonist, threatening to gather 100 million in 24 hours if he wants his sister to be okay. Furious, our boy grips the phone tightly when his mother asks what is wrong. He simply says he will be back after a while. His mother warns him against hurting or killing anyone, insisting that his life will be ruined if he does. But the monarch knows that killing them won't solve anything, unlike in hell. To his surprise, as soon as he mentions the word hell, a flaming panel appears, calming his mother. By saying he will not commit any crime, our protagonist accepts the offer to obtain a basic ability, presented with 4 options. He ponders which choice would be the best, but concludes that none of them are remarkable. Meanwhile, the gangsters continue moving his sister, crying for Daesung as they go up in the elevator. The ugly thug reminds her of her role as a hostage suddenly. Sparks fly, and the lights go out, stopping the elevator, noticing sparks near his feet. The fat guy is surprised. When our protagonist magically appears, he sarcastically comments that he came to deliver the money. It turns out, our hero chose the Shadow Spectre ability, allowing him to summon a spectre that takes on his form, once it has the target's blood. Now that he has located his target, the spectre slams the silver-suited head against the metal wall. Meanwhile, the ugly guy panics, realizing that Dae-sung was a hidden awakener all along, shocking his sister in the process. However, the spectre feigns ignorance when the elevator doors finally open. The fat guy stumbles out, announcing to the gang members that an awakener has invaded. But before he can say more, a quick blow to the back of his neck sends him crashing to the ground with a loud thud. Insulted in their own territory, the gangsters grab their weapons. The apparition greets them threateningly, and the first guy rushes to attack. However, he quickly finds himself teleported behind him, receiving a kick that knocks him unconscious. Thus, Electric Daisuke wreaks havoc on the mafia. Now the last man standing. He approaches Jisoo and checks if she is okay. He quickly removes her restraints and tape and encourages her to go home, but she reveals her concern for her dear brother with a calm hour. He assures her that he will come to the candle after finishing his business. So as the elevator door closes for her, the spectre prepares for another battle. Groans of pain echo through the corridors where only unconscious bodies are visible. It seems our hero climbs the stairs, clearing each floor one by one. As he approaches another group of smoking gangsters, he jokes that they are all so weak that the lack of challenge frustrates them. Irritated by the insult, like all the previous gangsters, they are completely demolished. One of them calls the boss, a man covered in tattoos that cover his gigantic muscles. He answers the phone, reprimanding his subordinate and reminding him to never call when he's relaxing in the sauna. However, the terrified gangsters insist that he come quickly. Being ordered to come infuriates the boss even more. But upon hearing his subordinate being knocked out, he realizes something is wrong. Getting up from his seat, he clenches his giant fist in frustration, crushing his phone. What a waste. Meanwhile, back at the gang's headquarters, numbers of bloodied bodies are on the floor. The dark figure approaches another member who pleads not to suffer the same fate. However, a wall suddenly explodes. Caught by surprise, Electric Sung turns to see a giant man grab his face immediately. Smashing his head into the ground, the boss expresses his anger over the mess caused by Sung. Meanwhile, our hero reflects on how his mother and sister aren't even surprised by his powers, realizing that others like him also exist. His spectral shadow powers allow him to retreat safely. The boss is shocked to see the guy cleaning himself in front of him, causing all the chaos. Alone, the spectral shadow questions if the boss is also an awakened one. The boss smiles proudly, promising to send our boy to hell. Upon hearing the very familiar word, our hero narrows his eyes at the muscular monster, whose clothes tear due to his physical growth, not caring about his size. As always, our hero punches the boss's face and taunts the fallen giant against a wall. The boss denies being defeated so easily, and gets up angrily to launch a counterattack, but is promptly humiliated by a kick to his sculpted face. A flurry of kicks. Our guy beats up the boss, explaining what true hell is and how much misery he causes. Meanwhile, the giant man only thinks about surviving and begs for time. With his soul in pieces, the muscular gangster offers money and everything he has in exchange for his worthless life. Hearing about the money piques our guy's interest. He questions the boss about the gang's security after pointing our protagonist to the closet with the safe. The boss flees like a crying little girl, finally reaching his white car in the parking lot, thinking he is safe. The boss rants about how he will ensure to hunt our boy down, but his nemesis approaches stealthily, whispering that he forgot to ask for the safe's password. Even as the boss goes insane with fear, the spectral shadow torments him once again, saying he can be found at any moment, anywhere. Later, money magically falls from a portal in front of our protagonist, totaling over 500 million. Our hero smiles like a greedy goblin at all the things and apartments he can buy. With that, he enters a mall and is enchanted by a newly released foldable phone that the shopkeeper mentions costs 2,990,000. With his curiosity piqued, he examines another model, one that resembles the Samsung Z Flip. The shopkeeper, hoping to facilitate the purchase, suggests an installment plan, but Dae-sung, without hesitation, puts 5 million on the counter and buys both models outright. The shopkeeper, with a suspicious look, accepts the money as if he had tricked someone or charged more than the fair price. Our devil arrives home, casually dropping his purchases when his mother calls him to join her for a meal. He replies that he needs to go out before she can ask where he is going. he has already disappeared into reality. He was invited to dinner by his friend at a restaurant. Chan Ho is visibly surprised by the transformation of Dae-sung since his physique has changed significantly since their last meeting just a few days ago. The two begin the meal, sharing a drink. Chan Ho starts a conversation asking Dae-sung about his future plans, remembering that they are no longer the carefree schoolboys they used to be. Dae-sung, however, steers the discussion to another topic, asking how many apartments could be bought with 500 million. Chan Ho momentarily surprised questions if Dae-sung really has that kind of money, but quickly shifts to discuss the current state of inflation. He explains that, unfortunately, such an amount would barely be enough for a lease on a modest apartment, located on the outskirts of the city. This revelation disturbs the Demon Lord, and he anxiously asks how much it would cost to buy a place in the city. Chan Ho informs him that it would cost at least 2 billion won, then encourages him to relax, reminding Dae-sung that the world has changed drastically since he fell into a coma. Changing the conversation, Chan Ho gets straight to the point, asking if Dae-sung is awake. Dae-sung replies that to confirm this, he first needs to understand what it really means to be awake. As they leave the restaurant, Chan Ho explains everything. He starts from the beginning, narrating how shortly after Dae-sung's coma, mysterious portals known as portals began to appear everywhere. At first, the portals were seen as a minor threat and were kept under control. However, things took a dark turn when monsters began to escape from the portals flooding the land. In what became known as a portal fracture, these monsters caused destruction, sparing no one in their path. Humanity fought back, but soon discovered that their man-made weapons were completely ineffective against such nefarious creatures. Dae-sung, unable to contain his curiosity, interrupts asking if not even firearms or cannons could hurt them. Chan Ho confirms that it is safe to say that normal weapons did nothing. He then continues explaining that over time, a new type of weapon was discovered, special weapons known as aura weapons. These new weapons made from monster byproducts proved effective against the creatures. Those capable of using them became known as the awakened heroes who were on the front lines. When humanity faced near extinction, the saying, "necessity is the mother of invention," proved to be true. As humanity adapted to survive in an attempt to show off, the Demon Lord pulls a state-of-the-art foldable smartphone from his arsenal trying to impress Chan Ho, but his confidence crumbles upon discovering that such phones are now being distributed for free. Realizing he was tricked, overwhelmed by shame, Dae-sung keeps the matter to himself, choosing not to reveal to his friend how much he actually paid for it. He then shifts the conversation back to the topic of the awakened, telling Dae-sung that even if he doesn't use an aura weapon, he can still harness the aura to strengthen his body. He then points out that he heard not only about Dae-sung's improved physique, but also that he recently gave quite a scare to a group of notorious delinquents. Dae-sung, with a touch of bluff, asks Chan Ho if he would still offer him money and would have the same attitude towards him if he were not an awakener, subtly revealing his intentions to exploit their friendship. His temper flares up, but before their argument can escalate, a portal fracture suddenly occurs above them, and monsters begin to emerge among them. While the monsters slam their wooden weapons against the ground, the earth shakes violently, resembling an earthquake. The pure force sends waves of fear through the nearby citizens, making them tremble in terror. The monsters let out threatening growls, sending the humans into a panic as they flee for their lives. Dae-sung, however, does not recognize these creatures. Upon encountering them, distinctly different from those he had faced in hell. Without wasting time, Dae-sung stomps his foot on the ground, breaking a piece of the road and launching it towards the approaching monsters. But before the debris can hit, a shining shield materializes, blocking the attack. Chanyol quickly remembers the Isung, that such weapons are ineffective against these creatures. When one of the monsters approaches them, Chanyol closes his eyes, convinced that they are finished, but the sound of blood splattering forces him to open them again, only to find the monster decapitated, with Dae-sung standing. He had proven by sheer strength that unarmed attacks could take down these creatures. Chanyol can hardly believe his eyes. But as he watches Dae-sung easily take down an entire group of monsters, he begins to wonder if his friend has awakened to Class B. However, he quickly realizes that now is not the time for such thoughts. She directs his focus to the safety of the citizens around as panic takes over the crowd. He raises his voice, urging the terrified people to follow him, assuring them that he knows the way to safety through the sewer system. As the people begin to react, they find themselves surrounded by monsters. A girl overwhelmed by fear starts to cry, and when she seems about to be attacked, Chanyol springs into action, saving her life at the last moment. Seizing the opportunity, Dae-sung intervenes to eliminate the monster. With a smug smile, he mocks Chanyol for being in his way, and urges him to find a place to hide, remembering that he is still exposed outdoors. Taking the lead, Chanyol quickly spearheads the effort to help the public evacuate to a safe place. Meanwhile, a young vlogger seizes the moment, starting a live stream of Dae-sung as he fights alone against the monsters. The audience watches, captivated by the broadcast, cheering for Dae-sung's bravery. Suddenly, the vlogger shouts, telling Dae-sung to look behind him. However, it is too late. The demon lord is thrown against a car by one of the monsters, the impact reverberating through the chaos. The vlogger, smiling and laughing, is focused solely on his content and views, knowing that a hero being thrown makes for engaging footage that will surely attract attention. Meanwhile, the crowd manages to escape into the sewers. Chanyol reunites the little girl with her mother, who hugs her tightly, apologizing in tears for the separation. A man turns to Chanyol and asks if he plans to go back. Torn, he struggles with the decision, aware that his friend is still out there, fighting the monsters. The scene shifts back to Dae-sung, who finds himself cornered by the monsters, one of them displaying a smile, ready to attack. The young vlogger covers his eyes, believing the hero is finished. To the astonishment of both the vlogger and the monsters, Dae-sung dodges the attack with agility. Then he turns to the monster, thanking it for inadvertently helping to restore a fraction of his mana. Then he turns to the monster, thanking it for inadvertently helping to restore a fraction of his mana. In exchange, he offers the creature a painless death, his voice calm and authoritative. The Lord of Demons shows no mercy when facing the monsters, defeating them with precision. While the viewers of the live stream flood the comments, complaining about the poor image quality and asking the vlogger to get closer for a better view. Among the viewers, one called Slayer of 5 million, one promises another 5 million if the vlogger manages to capture a clear image of Dae-sung fighting the monsters. The excitement grows as the stakes rise for both the vlogger and the heroic Lord of Demons. Knowing about the donation of 5 million won sends shivers down the vlogger's spine. He feels excitement, but his cowardice prevents him from approaching the action, while Dae-sung continues decapitating the monsters with powerful punches, quickly realizing that this relentless fight consumes a significant amount of his mana. Another viewer comments, offering more money for a clear image and asking for the vlogger's email. Overwhelmed by the flood of sponsorship notifications, the vlogger experiences a mix of excitement and anxiety, torn between his desire for fame and the fear of what lies ahead. The vlogger receives another donation of 20 million from a viewer, who demands detailed information about the hero fighting the monsters, promising even more money in return. The scene shifts to several viewers of the live stream who are engaged in a bidding war for Dae-sung. These individuals, clearly prominent clan leaders, find it both entertaining and impressively strong. Their interest in Dae-sung grows as they witness his prowess, contemplating how they can leverage his abilities for their own gain. On the other hand, Dae-sung has eliminated so many monsters that the remaining ones now tremble in fear of him. However, one creature, presumably its leader, kills one of its minions without showing any signs of fear, as it prepares to confront Dae-sung. Meanwhile, the vlogger's greed for money has grown to the point where he is now willing to take risks for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Just as he gathers the courage to approach and get a better shot, Tainho suddenly appears, startling him by demanding to know why he hasn't evacuated yet. The unexpected encounter causes the vlogger's phone to drop, and his viewers explode in the comments, calling him a loser and a coward for his timidity. Zano drags the vlogger toward the safety of a nearby building, but the boy resists, consumed by thoughts of money and views. As he is forcibly pulled, a monster approaches, crushing his phone underfoot. In shock, the vlogger loses consciousness, but before any further harm can come to them, Dae-sung intervenes, decapitating a monster with a swift move. As the remaining monsters are eliminated, Dae-sung turns to Chanyol, asking why his friend returned despite the danger. Chanyol expresses his concern, admitting that he was very worried about Dae-sung. In response, Dae-sung asks if his friend can wait about 20 minutes, explaining that he needs to visit a specific location. Chinho reassures him, mentioning that the clans will arrive soon. Noticing his friend's lack of information, Dae-sung promises to update him later. He quickly enters the Pantheon, and T-chan watches in confusion as Dae-sung opens a gate. He wonders how Dae-sung can open a gate by himself, and what has happened to him since the last time they met. Upon entering the Pantheon, our Demon King scoffs, clearly irritated by the condition of his body after such a minor injury from battle. A panel emerges revealing that his mana reserves are at only 10%, unhappy with his miserable mana levels. He looks for a way to restore them quickly. He soon discovers that, to regain his strength, he must relive the experiences recorded in his diary, with rewards that mirror the trials he overcomes, A wave of déjà vu floods him, as the memories from the diary that kept him during his time in hell resurface without a second thought. He accepts the test in an instant. A diary materializes before him. Massive bursts of energy explode from the book, signaling the start of the challenge. Memories of his suffering flood our hero's mind. As the diary releases its contents, it bursts into flames, leaving a bitter aftertaste of painful memories with a fierce determination to finally enhance his humanity. The ruler of hell orders the recreation of page 16, detailing 5 agonizing years in hell. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Tainho accompanies the vlogger boy, who clumsily tries to uncover details about his hero with his savior. With an awkward movement, the boy casually asks where the incredible monster fighter has disappeared, unperturbed. Tainho casts a disdainful glance at the spineless boy, loudly questioning why anyone would offer 20 million saws just for a picture of his friend's face. Uninterested in the answer, the boy feigns ignorance, but their conversation is abruptly interrupted by a deafening sound that shakes them both. Cheo calmly instructs the boy to follow him in silence. Towards the gathered evacuees, feeling his phone vibrate, Cheo reads a message from his leader informing that, since it is the weekend, reinforcements will be delayed, urging to escape as quickly as possible. Disturbed by the news, Cheo can only hope that his best friend the demon hunter returns soon before it is too late. Meanwhile, in another dimension, our hero finds himself reliving his time in the Predator Forest. Gentle winds pass by him, but he feels restless. With the eerie silence around him, a panel appears, announcing his task. Subjugate 10 white colossi. The divine beings of the forest, unaware the innocent demon king wonders where his enemies could be oblivious to the enormous shadow looming above. The robot locks onto the target, its eyes glowing with a threatening red hue. Before releasing a dazzling beam of energy, sensing the danger in time, our hero narrowly avoids the attack, almost being incinerated through the blinding fog. Our demon king spots the white colossus, righteous, a machine with a face only a mother could love, if it even had one. While he assesses this so-called divine creation, its hand suddenly lunges in his direction, slicing through the air like a drill. Unfazed, he responds with a counterattack, his fist striking the metallic face of the automaton, absorbing the impact of the blow. Destructive from our demon king, the colossal robot stumbles back in a final desperate move, its fingers extend like sharp blades, ensnaring him. But he easily dodges the projectiles and delivers a powerful punch directly to the abdomen. The sheer force of the blow tears the divine machine from top to bottom, leaving only scraps and smoke in its wake. As he pauses, waiting for the next challenger, his eyes are drawn to a strange red core lying among the debris. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Tainho and the vlogger boy arrive at the rooftop, only to be confronted with the bloody sight of bodies scattered everywhere. Horrified, Shanio notices a severely injured man, still clinging to life. He and the vlogger boy run to see how he is. With trembling lips, the nearly dead man tries to alert Shanio about the threat behind him. Confused, Chain turns around and finds himself face to face with a giant goblin monster, wielding a huge wooden club just a few steps away. Worried about the injured man, the vlogger boy suggests they move him, but Chain dismisses the idea, stating that the man's time has already passed. He warns the boy not to make any wrong moves. Then the cowardly boy turns to look at the threat, which he should have been so careful about, instantly getting scared seeing the paralyzed boy. Chanho tells him to wake up if he doesn't want to die. With a deafening roar, the giant monster leaps into the air ready to crush them. But for now, let's revisit the Pantheon where the ruler of hell is analyzing the large red orb. It seems that the divine machines can rebuild themselves, becoming stronger and more adapted against their opponents. Several panels appear to elaborate on the annoying feature in detail. Quickly realizing our hero advances and punches the core, but almost like jelly. His attack is easily repelled at 3% restoration. He lands on top of the core, visibly irritated. With a powerful punch fueled by anger, he manages to produce only a few sparks of red lightning. Despite the relentless blows from the Hell Monarch, the core's recovery continues smoothly. Indifferent, however, as the restoration approaches 70%, error alarms begin to sound just as our guy prepares to deliver the decisive final blow. A beam of laser whizzes by, almost hitting him. He turns around, realizing he is surrounded by other robots all along, the Colossi. In a well-coordinated attack, fire from all directions, dodging the hail of fire with ninja-like agility, he realizes the critical situation he is in. To make matters worse, the core silently advances to 98% completion. Regardless, the ruler of hell refuses to give up. Pushing through the chaotic laser attack, he manages to reach the core and obliterate it. At the last second, frustrated by the unfair confrontation, our hero decides to rummage through his memories for a solution. But before he can fully process his thoughts, A crushing headache suddenly overwhelms him. By a stroke of luck and a plot armor touch, the robots ignore his opening. Thus, with the memories of his past experiences returning, he devises a plan to give those ugly machines the beating they deserve. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Sean and the young vlogger run desperately, with the monstrous creature looming over them. The two strategically separate, leaving the oversized, Brutamonte confused about which one to pursue. The plan is to circle back and re-enter the building where the oversized and uglier cousin of the Hulk cannot follow. Despite the monster's massive arm trying to grab them, they manage to escape, giving them a brief moment to catch their breath. When the creature finally gives up, Shanio seizes the opportunity to escape while he still can. On the other hand, our hero is busy jumping and dodging among the divine machines in the other dimension, barely avoiding their relentless laser beams. His goal is to cause as much confusion as possible, drawing the attention of all nearby automatons. As soon as he seemingly achieves his goal, he runs away from the swarm of celestial beings. Landing in an empty area of the forest, he finally stops, allowing the enemies to lock onto him and charge their laser attacks. But suddenly, one of the colossal robots falls to its knees, ignoring its ally, while the others prepare for the attack. But our demon lord sits comfortably and shows the finger to the brainless machines. One by one, the line of machines falls, while the swamp whale reveals the reason behind the name of the forest. A giant jaw emerges from the ground and devours the aligned divine machines one by one, and living their horrible memories. Our boy casually observes from afar, while the colossus of a whale completes the challenge for him. With all the celestial beings defeated, a congratulatory panel appears. In exchange, he receives his new rewards, enhanced physical abilities, with increased mana reserves, and the Dagger of Judgment. As the weapon materializes before him, he inspects its special ability. The system explains that the dagger works like a remotely controlled plane within a radius of 100 meters. Now, this is a cool birthday gift. After testing his new cool weapon, the ruler of Hell decides to return to Earth. The scene shifts to a news broadcast. From when the portal first opened, the anchor solemnly reports on the tragic fracture that took many lives, and consults a pale professor who looks like that uncle who brings politics to birthday parties in search of a solution. The man points his finger at the Awakeners Association, claiming they are responsible for the disaster. He comments that they take many vacations and just postpone the problems. When there is a shortage of hunters, he emphasizes that the fractures do not care if the hunters are relaxing in Hawaii or on duty, so they should be held accountable. Next we see a guy with a bun watching the news on his phone. Irritated with the frustrated professor, he comments that the hunters from the association earn a pittance compared to the clans. Listening to the complaints of his partners, the team leader next to him tells them to focus on getting results now, or they might lose their jobs. But their conversation is interrupted when they hear breaking news about a certain awakened one who dealt with the monsters alone back at the disaster site. The vlogger boy and Tianho hide in a room anxiously waiting for a rescue group. Suddenly, a series of loud noises catches their attention. As the whole room begins to shake, they try to cautiously peek outside, but before they can understand the situation, the ceiling collapses. Completely terrified, dominated by fear, Tian wonders if their time has come, but it turns out to be just a hungry Isung and Petrie. Umfante, over the decapitated remains of the giant extra-large, is delighted to see his friend when he needs him the most. Despite his terrible condition, our boy smiles calmly, noticing something strange. His best friend asks if he is okay. Trembling in pain, the ruler of Hell orders the fast food boy to cook some meat for him. The two stare at him speechless, going crazy over the fact that he wants to savor a grilled hamburger. In a life-or-death situation with no chicken in stock, our knowledgeable demon analyzes whether the monster's meat is edible. He starts to devour it, making the other two almost lean over and empty their empty stomachs happily. A soldier appears, leaving the vlogger boy euphoric for being able to survive, while our hero quietly savors his meal. The soldier ignores the boy who enthusiastically expresses his gratitude to him and declares in awe. Before he can realize that it is monster entrails, Shanio enters and distracts the soldier, introducing his friend. Shanio pulls our hungry hero away and encourages him to eat until he is full. Later, unexpectedly, the soldier changes his attitude and explains that they cannot just leave, then proudly arrives and shows his clan identification card. Upon seeing the man's clan symbol, the soldier smiles, ready to escort them to a safe location. On the other hand, elsewhere, the guy with the bun is busy emptying his stomach after seeing the mutilated remains of the monster. Irritated, the team leader shouts at him to find survivors instead of cowering on the ground like an insect. The bun guy immediately convinces a soldier to enter the restricted area since he is a hunter from the association. Meanwhile, The elegant team leader reflects on what kind of monstrous guy could shred bodies like that. The scene shifts to the boys in Chanyol's car. Our hero's best friend suggests they sleep at his apartment. But being a family man, our boy insists he needs to see his family. The best friend reminds him that his family would be terrified if he visited them in his current state. Giving a quick glance at himself, the ruler of hell decides to make a call to his mother, and the two go out to savor some freshly made fried chicken. After cleaning up, of course, they finally arrive at Chanyol's apartment. And my guy is impressed by the extravagance. After freshening up, the two sit at the table with several expensive dishes lined up. Curious, our protagonist remembers his friend telling him about the insane money hunters make. Chanyol states, but he also adds that hunters are cheaters, considering how much they are paid when asked if he wants to become a hunter. My friend responds with a grunt while devouring a whole chicken wing. A bit disturbed, Tiano informs his friend that he would be ranked quite high if evaluated. He adds that with his insane power, our protagonist would be nothing less than an A rank. Confused by the terminology, Chanyol explains to him that a better rank simply means he can join the great clans anyway. He points out that the monthly income is insanely high. Intrigued, Daisung asks if there is a higher rank than that. Then Chanyol reveals that there are only 5 of them among the 200 million awakened worldwide of rank S. Smirking mischievously, Chanyol jokes that his best friend shouldn't dream of becoming the 6th of rank S. Stating that rank A is already good enough, he asks again if our hero intends to become a hunter, agreeing. Shanyo promises to help with everything, and the two brothers toast to the occasion. The scene transitions to some mobsters eating in a fancy restaurant. A strange guy with long hair repeats his words to a bald gangster who is terribly scared of him. The guy repeats, wondering if he is correct in thinking that an entire organization was taken down by a single hooded boy on his tablet. Elegantly wiping his lips, he jokes that it is really embarrassing. The brown-haired man, manager of the Hongma clan, and his course, stands up and asks why the bald guy didn't run away and came crying to him. One of the good guys, bald, pleads, trembling intensely as the boy places a hand on his shoulder with a terrifying expression on his face. He then asks if the bald guy is shaking, because of the dead body on the other side of the room, making the gangster sweat profusely. Crying, the bald guy begs his boss not to execute him, like the body that is just a few meters away. Gently stroking the bucket's head, his boss calmly explains that all he cares about is the stolen money. He makes it clear that he plans to also take the gang's secret hideout, but Bucket, paralyzed by fear, pretends not to understand. Terrified, the bald guy remains silent while his boss silently decides his fate. Unexpectedly, the long-haired man steps back, claiming to trust the bald guy's word, but of course, mere moments after expressing gratitude for the information, the shaved head evenly in his hand explodes, his rear end barely recognizing the source of the gushing blood, as he casually grabs his tablet, showing a picture of Dae Sung. He orders a woman lurking in the shadows to efficiently capture the culprit. While our boy finally visits the Hunters Association, Tianhao advises him to take the awakening test, but when our guy ignores him, Tianhao reminds him to speak formally, unless he wants to seem like a nervous outcast, like a father waiting for his children's test results. Xander asks him to send a message with the result as soon as it's ready. Approaching the front gate, our boy observes the strange crowd of oddballs who also came to register. Focused on the payment, he ignores his peers and heads straight to laboratory number 3. After securing a spot in the waiting line, he checks his phone and sees a message from his mother, asking when he will come home. To avoid worrying her, he replies that he will take a shower and be home very slowly. Like all mothers, she also asks if he is eating well, making our boy smile and feel even more anxious to go home. His warm moment is interrupted when an attendant informs him that it's his turn. With that, a delusional old man starts complaining that he is awake, despite the employee's assurances that the meter is functioning correctly. The old man refuses to stop his loud complaints, continuing to claim that losing hair overnight is proof of his awakening, causing everyone before to be irritated, to burst into laughter. The stubborn man declares that he will not budge until his complaint is acknowledged. Tired of waiting, my friend grabs the shiny scalp of the man and silences him with an overwhelming aura. Even so, the old man persists, insisting that the meter is indeed broken. Then the graceful Demon King gives him the benefit of the doubt, and a hunter offers to check personally. When he places his hand on the orb, it sparks and turns green, showing that he is a Class C. Confused, the old man begins to sweat profusely. The cheerful employee happily shows the old man the way out, clearly making him look like a fool, while the old man continues to deny, and makes our friend cringe in embarrassment. Finally, it's his turn. The attendant gossips with her colleague about our hero, perhaps being the best of the day since she saw his frightening aura, but he just ignores her with a pat on the head. Then, with the full support of the cute attendant, our hero approaches the manometer. A sudden chaos unfolds at the Hunters Association of Korea. With commotion rising everywhere, the branch manager starts receiving urgent calls, directing him to visit examination room 3 on the 6th floor. Immediately growing suspicious of the raw nature of the call, he wonders if perhaps a 6th S-rank hunter has awakened. However, he quickly dismisses the thought, considering it impossible. Upon reaching the 6th floor, he heads to examination room 3, only to find a large crowd already gathered there. Making his way through the crowd, he finally sees what caused the disturbance. The crystal meter's sphere is broken, resembling the cracked shell of an egg. The manager grows anxious and immediately seeks an explanation from his staff about the situation. The team quickly informs him that a man named Dae-sung placed his hand on the crystal ball for the exam. At first, the colors inside the orb flickered unpredictably. Then, without warning, it exploded in a cloud of smoke, leaving both the staff and spectators completely confused. Frustration grows within the manager as he responds, insisting that the explanation could be as simple as a faulty meter. However, the team points out that they used 3 crystal meters, different, and each had the same fate. Upon hearing this, the manager concedes, realizing that it is impossible for them all to be defective. Meanwhile, our boy anxiously hopes that he won't be asked to compensate for the 3 broken crystal balls. With this concern in mind, he turns to the manager and asks about his results, only to be met with the manager's confusion. The manager then informs him that continuing to use additional meters could lead to the same explosive result. He mentions that this is the first time they encounter such an unusual situation, and therefore they would have to make a decision at the limit. He continues to explain that in cases where the crystal ball fails to provide an adequate assessment, the results of the license test alone will be sufficient to evaluate him. Normally, the test would only be part of the classification determination process, but in Dae-sung's case, it will be the only decisive factor. Dae-sung, still unsure, questions the reliability of the license test. Before anyone else can respond, a team member intervenes with a detailed explanation about how the exam system works, holding back to alleviate his concerns about this issue. With nothing left to do but wait, the demon nods, accepts their proposal, and discreetly withdraws. The branch manager finds the whole situation concerning, still trying to understand what happened. Meanwhile, the attendant who previously discussed the mechanism of the crystal ball suggests a theory. She proposes that the crystal ball may be unable to measure power beyond a certain limit. The manager, increasingly curious, asks if she is implying that Dae-sung could be at a triple S level. To this, the clerk nods in agreement. However, her colleague quickly mocks the idea, pointing out that, while anything is possible in this unpredictable world, he seriously doubts the idea of Dae-sung reaching a triple S rank. The scene shifts to Dae-sung exiting the Hunter Association building, still pondering the events that just occurred. His phone rings, and it's his friend Tianho on the other end. Dae-sung informs him that he has been given a linear status for now. Finding the situation strange, Tianho asks if the meter got stuck. Dae-sung, with a touch of amusement, explains that it actually broke, which was the reason. Knowing Dae-sung's tendency for chaos, Tianho jokes if he has been messing around but quickly dismisses the idea, thinking it shouldn't have been possible. Dae-sung holds on to Tianho, who carefully followed the instructions, placing his hand on the meter exactly as he was told. Then, Tianho retorts, mentioning that he had a feeling something strange would happen. From the beginning, Dae-sung promises to share more details about the exam later, and with that, the call ends. Moments after hanging up, however, the demon's sharp senses come into play. He immediately detects the presence of a sniper positioned far away, the finger already resting on the trigger, aiming directly at him. The female sniper murmurs about Dae-sung, observing that he doesn't seem strong. She feels confident that he will be defeated with just 1 bullet, despite his supposed strength. However, just before pulling the trigger, that he will be defeated with just 1 bullet, despite his supposed strength. However, just before pulling the trigger, she notices something strange, and is surprised to realize that she has been discovered. It seems impossible to her since no hunter has ever managed to notice her before. Dae-sung points to his head with a face reflecting anger and urges her to look. The sniper feels fear, for not only has she been noticed, but Dae-sung's voice now reaches her from a distance. She trembles in fear, but quickly composes herself to pull the trigger. An explosion occurs and the sniper feels a wave of confident happiness, believing she succeeded in the assassination. However, as the smoke begins to dissipate, Dae-sung remains there completely unharmed. Despite the sniper using an aura bullet, it seems totally ineffective. Feeling scared, she thinks about retreating. However, as soon as she turns to run, Dae-sung throws his weapon, a dagger, stabbing the assassin in the leg and causing her to stumble. When the shooter turns her face, her target is directly in front of her. Reminiscent of a horror movie scene, Dae-sung bluffs, claiming that the bullet hit him in the head but could not kill him in response. The sniper quickly draws a weapon, pointing it at him, and demanding to know where he came from. The demon lord says nothing but the truth, stating he came from nowhere else. But hell. Still, the lady certainly would not accept this reality. Overwhelmed by fear and anxiety, she fires several aura bullets at Dae-sung, in hopes of seeing him die. Suddenly, he reappears behind her, catching her off guard with his unexpected presence. She finds it incomprehensible as she is sure her target had fallen. However, he is there completely unharmed. Our boy grabs the lady by the neck, choking her and throwing her against the wall. He uses his power, enveloping her in a demonic and numbing material that terrifies her. As she faints, Dae-sung clarifies that he has no intention of killing her. He collects the bullets and searches her belongings for clues. Then he places the bullets on her head, forcing her to regain consciousness. Covered in sweat, the lady screams subdued. By the repugnant hands emerging from the creature summoned by Dae-sung, Dae-sung adopts a gang leader stance, demanding that the lady answer all his questions peacefully if she wishes to live. Upon spotting family photos in her luggage, he questions her about who sent her to kill him and his family. Feeling anxious, she realizes she cannot reveal anything about the Hongma clan. However, she suddenly remembers a gangster who disappeared and seizes the opportunity to use his name, telling Dae-sung that it was Kim Sung-ri who sent her. She explains that Kim Sung-ri is the same rookie that Dae-sung crushed some time ago in the private loan organization. Arguing that he stole her safe in exchange for her location, she pleads for her freedom in response. Dae-sung throws a bullet at the woman, piercing her shoulder. She comments that she did what he asked and told him everything. Our boy maintains his gangster act, arguing that it is quite suspicious for an assassin to provide sensitive information so easily, feeling a grain of salt in her words. The lady, drenched in fear, realizes she made a mistake by being so hasty. Dae-sung politely asks again, who ordered the assassination? She thinks to herself that she has already failed the request, and even if she survived this encounter, the psychopathic head of the Hongma clan would certainly kill her. Considering her death inevitable, she screams that she will never reveal that information even if asked 1,000 times, and tries to commit suicide. However, before she can, our gangster fires a bullet, opening a huge hole in her torso. The assassin coughs blood and collapses dead. Dae-sung feels irritated, realizing he failed to find out who was behind all of this. He then looks at her lifeless body, contemplating ways to get rid of it. He remembers an item he possesses that could be useful, yet he hesitates to use it instead. He reviews his memories of the diary, searching for any relevant recollection about the keyword dead. After examining 134 pages, he opens a portal to the pantheon fully aware of